First off, let me show you the two cars in front of you. So this is my Rustler that I've had for a long time. I've had it for probably, I don't know, 3-4 years, and I've spent a lot of time making it more raceable, because I do have an X-Ray XT2, and that's great, and I've come 6th in the Nationals last year with that. But there's something about this, and I'll just show you underneath the very nice but very damaged body, painted to look like the old Traxxas SRT, if you know what that is. Very cool. So this is it underneath. It's got quite a few upgrades on it. I've swapped everything from the chassis to the transmission, gear covers, differential, drive shafts, top links, steering rack, shock towers. They're an obvious one, actually. Hub carriers, but these are just cheap crap ones, so I would not buy them. And then, as well as the RPM bulkhead as well. Now, these upgrades took a long time in the making. It would be like an incremental thing where I would, test the car, see what I needed for it, and sort of tune it. I did at some point put X-ray shocks on it, and it was good, really good. But I underestimated how good the Traxxas shocks were. They're actually super smooth and really good. And once you dial them in, they're actually really good. Just the springs are a little long on them, but you can cut them down, and it sits a lot lower. Another thing that lets the stock shocks down, which I didn't realise, was the shock towers were very flexible. I've got the stock ones on this other car, I'll show you. Bear with me a second. Oh, I'll just throw that. Alright. These are the stock ones. They are plastic, and they move a lot. Look at that flex in that. Whereas carbon one, yeah, I'm not moving that. That's not going anywhere. And this car is about as good as it's gonna get without a few more bits. There's a few more bits I want to do, like better hubs, because these cheap ones have got a lot of play in them. That's letting it down a lot. The transmission's getting a bit worn, so I don't mean the actual gears inside. I mean the like these arm, because it's an RPM transmission, you get the separate arm mounts, and these arm mounts are starting to wear out, and they have a bit more play in them than they used to, and it kind of means that the toe-in on the rear kind of changes a bit sometimes, which makes it a little bit less stable. That's about all there is to talk about that. Oh, and last time I ran it, I smashed the bumper off of the front. I went full throttle into a metal post off the straight at Sheffield. But it's just a bumper, and then the front weight fell off, but that's just a piece of double-sided tape to stick that back on. Could have been worse, could have broke something, actually, that would have meant it wasn't runnable. That's just a bumper. I mean, I didn't run it after I broke the bumper, because if that hit something, that's pretty sharp, like shattered. So let's talk about the main idea of this this video. Is that this Rustler I bought just the other day, and the idea with it was cheap on the internet, and I couldn't find a Traxxas Bandit for a good price. There was a VXL on for 180 quid, and I was too slow to get it, and they sold it. And that was the last one on the internet at the time that was a decent, like an actual proper price that was worth buying. So I bought this rustler for 100 quid, and it's about the same as when I got it the other day. I've done a couple bits to it, but not much. I've rebuilt the shocks and put red aluminium caps on, because if you don't do the caps, they're just terrible shocks. But if you do the caps, the shocks are great. I also swapped the front pistons for the Traxxas free-hole pistons, just to soften up the damping a bit. And I used 400 CST all round shock oil. I can always adjust that. I don't know if that's going to be too thick or too thin, but it's a good starting point because I can go up or down from there. The rear I left the 2 old pistons in because these are very heavy on the back, and you need a lot of damping to stop the transmission from slapping into the ground and then throwing the car over. And then what I'm planning to do with it, well, actually first I'll just show you. It did come with RPM caster blocks, which is, it's better than the stock ones that break if you breathe on them. And it came with aluminium, can't really see, but aluminium hubs in there. Those aluminium hubs seem to be pretty good. There's not a lot of play in them, so I'm happy with that. So, plans for this car. Turning it into a Bandit. So, I've ordered Bandit rear arms, Bandit dog bones, Bandit, what do you call this centerpiece on the drive shaft? Half shafts, Bandit half shafts, top links all around for the Bandit, front arms for the Bandit, because they're a little bit shorter all around. I didn't realise this, but the front arms are actually shorter as well on the Bandit. But so I've ordered those, as well as a new, obviously a Bandit body, because I don't have one of those. So in clear, ready to be painted. Shock tower. I've ordered carbon shock towers like I've got on this, because they're just terrible. The chassis, I've ordered the slightly better, in my opinion, chassis, because this is the stock chassis. It's got this massive ridge down here, and it's also got this sort of cross pattern in the battery tray, which means you can't stick anything in it. As well as, you see how there's not a lot of room behind there. There's like a plate sort of here that separates like a section here and a section here. You can cut that out, but it's just annoying. And this one doesn't have it, so you can mount your ESC all the way there in the center, and receiver, you get the idea. This chassis is smooth underneath, so it doesn't get caught on things so easily. It also arguably is slightly lower center of gravity, but not much. Like, you won't feel much of a difference from that to that. The other thing is transmission. RPM transmission for racing these is a must. It gives you the adjustability and the durability of having these gearbox ears be separate from the actual gearbox, because these can break in a bad crash. I've never broken one, but I have seen it happen. And it's just you're unlikely to break the RPM one, and even if you do, they're a separate piece, so you don't break the entire transmission. So, as well as, these ears come in different variants, so you get a 0 degree towing and a 3 degree towing. and I believe it's a degree of kick up on the 0 degree, and I think it's 2 degree of kick up on the, no, I don't think it's that aggressive, I think it's 1.5 on the 3 degree, but you can also adjust that by putting shims underneath the actual ears on the transmission, which is pretty cool on the RPM gearbox. I've also, because the Robin Hood Classic, which I'm going to be racing this at, the rules are you've got to run honeycomb tyres, which are not the grippiest, but you can sort of tune your car to work with them pretty well. So I bought Bull Diff, which was pretty costly, but not bad for a price of a Bull Diff. It was like 50 quid for the Bull Diff, proper Traxxas one, and that's not bad for a Bull Diff. For like an X-ray Bull Diff, you're looking at like 90 quid. So it's fairly cheap for a Bull Diff. Hopefully it'll be good. The motor, I'm going to run a just stock 10.5. I don't think there's a motor limit, but I don't want to be braking it all the time. And, you know, I don't really think I'll need the speed. If I do, I can swap the motor for something else, but I'm only running a 13.5 in that, and because of the way it's geared, it's absolutely rapid. Another thing with the Robin Hood Classic is that there's a weight restriction on how much weight you can add to the front of the car. Because they're all rear motors, and adding front weight helps with, you know, having more steering and balancing out the weight. I think it's 50 grams of weight you can add to the front before you're not allowed. So what I'm going to do is to try and make up for only being able to add 50 grams to the front. I'm going to try and take a bit of weight off of the transmission. So I've bought machined plastic input gear, plastic idler gear, and the Bull Diff actually weighs like 20 grams less than the gear diff, which is terrible anyway. So that's a good weight saving. I'm not going to run the bumper either, because you don't really need it. It doesn't save your motor. Your motor still gets... I mean, if anything, you end up getting this screw, this part of the motor, when you take a heavy hit, because it just bends this screw and pushes it up into the motor. So there's no point running that. It doesn't save your motor. It's just extra weight on the back that you don't need. And, you know, might as well just have it off. As well as, carbon shock towers are a little bit lighter, but they're not that much lighter because of this metal plate they include with it. They're not, I think they're only like a gram lighter or something because of the weight of that plate. So it's not a massive difference. But they're a lot stiffer, which is the obvious advantage compared to that, which is made of cheese. I also have the RPM gear cover on order, because this gear cover on the stock transmission is awful. You have to adjust the slipper. Well, the easiest way is to actually take it off, because this plug here, you can take it off pretty easily, but getting it back in properly takes, it takes quite a while to get it in properly. I'm not even going to take it out as a demonstration, because it's just annoying. Whereas you get the RPM one, which I have on this. It's got a nice convenient tab here. You pull on it, it pops off. You push on it, it pops on. How easy is that? Compared to fiddling about with it and trying to get a flathead screwdriver and pry it on. But it is an old design, I'll give them credit. It's at least it had an adjustable slipper without taking the gear cover off when it came out. I've also bought Nitro Fortec rear hubs because they have 1.5 degree of towing compared to the stock 0 degree hubs. Now, I'm probably gonna, what that allows me to do is, with the RPM gearbox, I've got the 0 degree ears and the 3 degree ears, so I can run 0 degree or 3 degree. But because I've got the 1.5 hubs, I'll be able to run a range between 0, 1.5, 3, and it's a bit aggressive, but 4.5. And, well, I'll probably only ever end up running 0 degree ears with the 1.5 hubs, and that's probably the only way I'll ever run it. But if it gets like wet or something, I'll probably run the 3 degree with the stock hubs. This seems to handle fine with 0. But this is on, you know, treaded tyres, on grippy tracks, whereas this is going to be on honeycombs, on, well, Robin Hood can be a bit greasy sometimes. It can be really grippy, but it can be very, very slippery offline and sandy. Just all sorts of surprise amounts of grip happening. And I think that's about it, all I've got to talk about for now. I'll continue this video once I have got the bits, and I'll...